Ken Whiting here to show you some rough water paddling on Lake Superior. And then we're going to talk about what it takes to paddle in rough water like this. Now, Lake Superior is one of the most amazing kayaking destinations in the world. But when the weather turns and the wind starts blowing, it can be treacherous. The waves can get massive. In fact, it feels more like an ocean than a lake. Now, the segment you're about to watch, this was on the coast of Lake Superior Provincial Park, about just to the southeast of Gargantua Bay. The winds were blowing about 20 miles per hour, just over 30 kilometers per hour, a bit of a tailwind, a bit of a side wind, enough to generate some significant waves. This is actually a segment from the full 5-day adventure on Lake Superior, which, well, it's actually the first video on my new channel, Ken Whiting Adventures, so be sure to check that out. I'll leave a link in the description box to that. So enjoy this segment. Go watch the full adventure if you'd like, but enjoy this segment and we'll come back and talk about it. Whoa, little chaos right here. These bouncing waves off the shore. What a wild shore. That's exactly what this is. This is a wild, wild shore. Woo! Wow. Based on the forecast, I'm going to be seeing a significant wind like this pretty much for the next 3 days. I had my calm. That was the calm. Not before the storm, but before the wind, for sure. It's going to be shifting. Well, it's already really shifted directly, coming in directly from the south. The waves are a little bit confused right now. Wow. These are big swells. A southern wind is going to be a tailwind once I get around Gargantua, which means I'm going to be traveling quick, but it could be some big following seas. We'll see. If there was ever a time to be loose in the hips, this is it. The boat just has to rock below you while your head stays centered. If you're stiff in these types of conditions, I mean, you really just don't have a chance. You gotta stay relaxed. Right here, definitely getting some funky waves going on. Hopefully it doesn't get too much bigger, because if it gets much bigger than this, man, that will get out of my comfort zone. And that's when you spend a day on shore. It's really that simple. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little segment from my Lake Superior adventure. Like I said before, you can watch the full adventure on my new YouTube channel, Ken Whiting Adventures. It was a trip of a lifetime, and it had a bit of everything. It had some beautifully calm days of paddling, and then it had some rough water. In fact, this rough water you just watched isn't the roughest that it got. It got rougher the following day, but I'm not going to get into that right now. What I am going to talk about is paddling in rough water. It's not for everybody. Paddling in rough water is intimidating. It can be dangerous. It's just not something that everybody's going to want to do. But if you do want to paddle in rough water, here are some things to know about it. First of all, you have to have the right gear. And the right gear for paddling in conditions like that is start off, your kayak is a touring kayak or a sea kayak. And the reason you really need a touring kayak or a sea kayak is, well, there's a bunch of reasons. For one, they're designed to be used with a skirt. And so that prevents your kayak from swamping. On top of that, they have bulkheads. And now bulkheads, if you don't know what a bulkhead is, it is a wall inside a kayak that separates the kayak into different compartments. And so touring kayaks and sea kayaks will typically have 2 or 3 bulkheads. Most often 2 bulkheads, one immediately behind the seat and then one just in front of your feet. And the idea there is that if you were to flip, capsize, whatever, only the center cockpit area is going to fill with water, get swamped. The whole front section, the bow of the kayak and the stern of the kayak are separated by these bulkheads, and they're going to hold air. That means your kayak is going to still it's going to still float very well. It's going to make rescues easier, towing easier. It makes everything so much easier, especially in rough conditions. And it really is a key safety feature of kayaks that are rough water worthy. The other thing that touring and sea kayaks have is higher performance outfitting, a back band, a seat with hip pads so you have better hip control, thigh hooks, something for your knees to go under that gives you edging control over the boat. All of these things make it possible to control your boat, have a good experience in rough water, but also deal with things when it all goes wrong, if you end up going for a swim. The other thing you need for paddling in rough water is the rescue skills. And you need to have learned them, and you need to have practiced them, and practiced them enough so that you can perform them in rough conditions. Because it's one thing to do to re-enter a kayak in flat water. It's another thing to re-enter a kayak when the wind is howling and you've got significant swell and waves around. You better be comfortable and confident doing it. The other thing you don't need, but it sure is nice for paddling in rough water, is a kayak roll. I say you don't need a kayak roll because there are other rescue techniques that you can learn to get back into your boat from the water, either on your own or with assistance from another paddler. But it is a whole lot easier if you've learned to roll, to simply roll the kayak upright if you've flipped. A kayak roll, for me, I can't imagine paddling in those types of conditions without being able to roll my kayak. The confidence, the comfort I get knowing that, hey, if I flip, I'll just roll up. It's massive. It lets me enjoy being in rough water and not be completely on edge the whole time. And so you don't need a kayak roll, but my goodness, is it ever an asset to have. And so I would highly recommend learning the roll. There is all sorts of great places to learn the roll. A lot of places have pool sessions where you can learn the roll. It's a great winter thing to do. Learn the roll in a controlled environment with one-on-one instruction. If you want to paddle in rough water, learn to roll. The other thing you really need to have for paddling in rough water is pretty decent fitness. Now, you don't need to be a triathlete, not that kind of fitness, but pretty solid fitness. And the reason for that is when you're battling wind or when you're fighting waves, you do need some strength. It's not all technique that gets you through that stuff. Sometimes you don't have a choice. You have to just, in rough conditions, put your head down and plug away to get out of that spot, to get into cleaner water, to break through waves, to fight the wind, and you really don't have a choice when you're in those situations. You will have to keep plugging away until you can get to somewhere sheltered. And so you do need a good level of fitness in order to, once again, safely and comfortably enjoy a rough water experience. Now, there's other safety gear that you really can and should consider if you're going to be paddling in rough water, but I'm not going to get into depth with that stuff. The reality is you should have taken or be taking a sea kayaking or a rough water paddling course if you really want to play in these types of conditions. And in a course like that, you're going to learn about the equipment, safety equipment, and how to use it as well. And the equipment you need also depends on where you're going to be paddling. Bottom line is that rough water paddling isn't for everyone. It's one of those things that if you do want to do, you really do need to invest time into gaining knowledge and gaining the hard skills to be able to deal with whatever Mother Nature throws at you. Practice your rescue, learn and practice your rescues, get comfortable with all that stuff. Even better, learn the kayak roll. And even better, if you really want to paddle in rough water and be comfortable out there, take an introductory whitewater kayaking course. It's amazing what you'll learn about edge control and water dynamics from whitewater kayaking and how much of that applies to rough water paddling without current, in the ocean, on lakes, in windy conditions, in surf. An introductory whitewater kayaking course provides an incredible foundation of rough water paddling. And you might just find that you found another cool new hobby. So there you go. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and the segment from my Lake Superior adventure. Once again, please check out the full adventure on my new channel, Ken Whiting Adventures. And as always, subscribe to Paddle TV if you haven't already. Stay tuned for more tips and gear reviews on this channel and paddling adventures on my new channel.